important to her because it was her way to issue greetings to her York friends and their families and the web of relatives and ancient connections who lived in the north. Her May party had gone on for enough years now that it was seen by many as the unofficial start to the part of the year when the island became less cold and wet. Few, if any, of the minor aristocracy could afford to keep the garrisons of workers these houses had once employed. So once a year for her party, Meg would retain a gardening company and a crew of cleaners for 10 days, a party rental company, a good caterer, and a group of parking attendants. In her unabridged form, Meg was the Honourable Margaret Susanna Moncrieff Holroyd. Her family's holdings in York were first granted in the time of King Edmund in 941, after he had restored Anglo-Saxon control from the Scandinavians. In 946 he was murdered at age 25 by a robber in his royal hall at Pucklechurch near Bath. In 1472 Edward IV granted the estate again to that generation's earl, his close drinking and whoring buddy. When Meg told Michael about it, he laughed because it had cost the king nothing. It had already belonged to his friend's family for 500 years. The manor house had been given several major renovations over the centuries. The last large one was the result of the April 29, 1942 bombing raid that Hitler ordered after the RAF bombed Lübeck and Rostock. 92 people were killed in York that night, none of them on the estate, but the central hall received a bomb through its roof which needed to be repaired and restored. Meg's party always began as soon as anyone appeared at the front gate, and wouldn't end until she detected a diminution of gaiety late in the evening. In the morning there was a cricket match on the huge south lawn, where the party rental company had set up tables so that Meg could provide tea, pastries, and other refreshments for spectators. At 1 o'clock the caterers served lunch on the long tables of the great hall. In the afternoon a chamber orchestra performed, and a church choir sang. Older adults played sedate outdoor games like croquet, lawn bowling, and lawn darts, and there were foot races and other sports for the young and the irrepressible. The caterers set out a buffet dinner at 6, and at 8 a rock DJ began playing music on the old pasture on the east side of the house. That evening the party did not show signs of exhaustion until 11 p.m. Meg stopped the music at 11:30 and sent the parking attendants to direct traffic so that cars could get off the estate without hitting each other. She had drivers offer van rides to anyone who needed or wanted one. Meg was triumphant. "It went smoothly this year, don't you think?" she asked. Michael nodded. "Yep, you've outdone yourself again." Meg's party was one of his least favorite days of the year. Meg was not only an extrovert, but was also strikingly attractive, and had the money and taste to be glamorous. She was generous, witty, irreverent, and socially in demand even now in her 50s. There were people from the North Sea to the English Channel at intervals of about a half-mile who considered her one of their closest friends. 30 years ago, when she first got romantically involved with an American who had typical American tastes and manners, there were some people in her social sphere who had been horrified, and others who simply shrugged and said that scandalizing snobs was her chief delight, but there was nobody who wasn't a little sick about it. As soon as they met, Michael had realized that a man in his special circumstances had no way to survive except to become part of the background. The day he had flown to England, he had left many people in America who wanted him dead, people either burning for revenge or eager to collect on one of the contracts out on him, or whose job it was to put him in prison. Once he was in England, he made an effort to avoid conversation when he could and to cut it short if he couldn't. When Meg's friends asked what he did for a living, he said he was retired. When they wanted to know from what, he said he'd been in business. When they asked what business, he said it had been so dull that he had promised himself never to bore anybody else about it. He also maintained a lack of visible interest in most things other people said about themselves, and he had learned to keep